The shuttle was falling apart around her. Yuna. Park gripped the control stick with both hands as red warning lights flashed across every screen. The ship shook so hard that her teeth rattled. Through the cracked window, she could see the white surface of the planet rushing up to meet her. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on, come on, come on." She pulled the emergency lever. The landing thrusters fired, but only on one side. The shuttle spun wildly. Yuna's head slammed against the headrest. Stars exploded in her vision. Then everything went white. When she opened her eyes again, she was lying in snow. Cold snow. The kind of cold that burned her skin even through her suit. She pushed herself up slowly, every muscle screaming in pain. Her shuttle was 20 meters away, broken into 3 pieces, smoke rising from the wreckage. Yuna checked her suit's display. The thermal layer was damaged. She had maybe 6 hours before the cold would kill her. The temperature outside was already negative 40 degrees. At night, it would drop to negative 80. She was going to die here. No. She pushed that thought away. She was a lieutenant in the United Earth Fleet. She had trained for situations like this. She had survived worse. Actually, no. She had never survived worse than this. This was the worst thing that had ever happened to her. Yuna laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that came out when everything was so bad that crying seemed pointless. She walked to the shuttle wreckage and searched for anything useful. She found an emergency beacon, but it was cracked. She found a medkit, which was good. She found half a ration bar, which was not enough. She found a map display that still worked, barely. According to the map, there was an old mining outpost 40 kilometers to the east. 40 kilometers. In this cold. With a broken thermal suit. Impossible. But staying here was also impossible. So Yuna started walking. The wind cut through her like a knife. Every breath hurt. The snow was deep in some places, and she had to climb out of drifts that reached her waist. Her fingers were already going numb inside her gloves. She had walked maybe 3 kilometers when she heard the sound. A ship. Coming down from the sky, Yuna looked up and saw a small rescue pod falling through the gray clouds. It was not falling smoothly. It was spinning, just like her shuttle had spun. Fire trailed behind it. No, she said. The pod crashed into a snowbank about half a kilometer away. The impact sent up a huge wave of white powder. Then silence. Yuna ran. Or she tried to run. In this snow, running was more like aggressive walking. But she moved as fast as she could toward the crash site. When she reached the pod, she found a man climbing out of the broken door. He was tall, with black hair covered in snow and a cut on his forehead that was bleeding down his face. He wore a Science Division uniform. "Are you okay?" Yuna asked. The man looked at her with confused eyes. Then he seemed to understand what was happening. "I came to rescue you," he said. "That did not go as planned," I noticed. The man's name was Taiho Kang. He was a xenobiologist from the research vessel, Horizon's Edge. He had picked up Yuna's distress signal and had come down to help. But something in the upper atmosphere had damaged his pod. Something that should not have been there. "The Valori," Taiho said, wrapping a bandage around his head. "They have defense systems. Old ones. Nobody knew they were still active." The Valori? Yuna had heard the name before. A species that lived on cold worlds. They did not like visitors. "This is one of their claimed planets," Taiho explained. "Officially, humans are not supposed to be here. But your shuttle went off course, and I could not just let you die. So now we are both going to die," Yuna said. "Maybe not." Taiho pulled out a map display similar to hers. "There is an old mining outpost about 37 kilometers from here. If we can reach it before nightfall, we might find shelter. Maybe even working equipment." Yuna looked at the sky. The sun was already low. They had maybe 4 hours of daylight left. Can we make it? She asked. Probably not, Taiho said honestly. But we have to try. They walked together through the snow. Taiho's thermal suit was in better condition than Yuna's, so he walked on the side where the wind was strongest, blocking some of it from hitting her. It was a small thing, but it helped Dot as they walked. Taiho talked. He told her about the Valori. They were a reptilian species, cold-blooded, unable to produce their own body heat. They survived by living near hot springs and volcanic vents. They absorbed heat from their environment like lizards on Earth. They are terrified of humans, Taiho said. Why? We are not exactly threatening right now. Because of this. Taiho pointed at himself, then at Yuna. Our body temperature. 37 degrees Celsius, constantly, no matter what. To the Valori, we are like walking fires. They can sense heat. When they look at us, they see creatures that burn from within. Yuna thought about this. On Earth, being warm-blooded was normal. Every mammal did it. But out here, in the galaxy, it was apparently strange. Even frightening. So they think we are monsters, she said. Some of them do. Others are just curious. But their leaders have decided that humans are dangerous. That is why this planet is off limits. The sun dropped lower. The temperature dropped with it. Yuna could no longer feel her feet. Her fingers had stopped hurting, which was bad. When the pain stopped, it meant the frostbite was getting serious. How much farther? She asked. Taiho checked his map. His face told her the answer before he spoke. 10 kilometers, he said. 10 kilometers. In the dark. In negative 80 degrees. They were not going to make it, but they kept walking anyway. Because stopping meant dying, and neither of them was ready to die. The last light of the sun disappeared behind the frozen mountains. The stars came out, cold and distant. And somewhere in those mountains, something was watching them. Something with eyes that could see their heat, glowing like beacons in the darkness. The Valori knew they were here, and the Valori were coming. They reached the outpost at midnight. Yuna did not remember the last 2 kilometers. Her body had moved on its own, one foot in front of the other, while her mind floated somewhere else. Somewhere warm. She kept seeing her mother's kitchen back on Earth. She kept smelling the soup her mother used to make on winter nights. Yuna, wake up. Taiho was shaking her shoulder. She blinked and saw a building in front of them. It was old and covered in ice, but it was a building. Walls, a roof, protection from the wind. They pushed through the frozen door and stumbled inside. The outpost was dark and cold. Not as cold as outside, but cold enough to kill them slowly instead of quickly. Frost covered the walls. The equipment was old, at least 50 years. Mining equipment, communication equipment, all of it dead. The heating system? Yuna said through numb lips. Can you fix it? Taiho was already moving through the room, checking machines and control panels. His face grew more worried with each thing he touched. The power cells are gone, he said. Someone took them. All of them. The Valori? It has to be. They have been taking human technology from this planet for years. Anything that produces heat, they destroy or remove. Yuna slid down against a wall and sat on the frozen floor. Her body was shaking so hard that her teeth made clicking sounds. She could not control it. We are going to die here, she said. It was not a question. Taiho sat down next to her. He opened his pack and pulled out a thin emergency blanket. It was designed to reflect body heat back at the user. He wrapped it around both of them. Body heat, he said. It is all we have. We need to stay close. They pressed against each other, sharing whatever warmth they had left. It was not much, but it was something. Tell me something, Yuna said. Tell me anything. I need to stay awake. Taiho thought for a moment. Then he started talking. Do you know why the Valori really hate us? He asked. It is not just because we are warm. It is because they do not understand how we can be warm. What do you mean? Cold-blooded species get their heat from outside. The sun, hot water, volcanic vents. Their body temperature changes with their environment. But humans, we make our own heat, constantly, even when we sleep. Even when we are starving. Our bodies burn fuel and produce warmth like tiny engines. Yuna nodded weakly. She knew this. Every human learned basic biology. To the Valori, this is impossible, Taiho continued. They have never seen anything like it. Their scientists studied humans when we first made contact. They could not believe that a living creature could maintain such a high temperature without external heat. They thought it was some kind of trick. Some kind of weapon. A weapon? Think about it. In a galaxy full of cold-blooded species, a creature that produces its own heat is terrifying. We can survive in places they cannot. We can move and think and fight in temperatures that would make them slow and helpless. And when they look at us with their heat-sensing eyes, they see creatures that glow. We look like we are on fire. Yuna almost laughed. So we are the monsters in their stories. Exactly. They call humans the burning ones. Parents tell their children that if they misbehave, the burning ones will come and melt them. The night passed slowly. They talked to stay awake. They shared memories. Yuna told Taiho about her family in Bizon. Taiho told Yuna about his work studying alien life forms. They talked about food they missed and places they wanted to see and people they loved. At some point, Yuna fell asleep. She did not mean to. It just happened. The cold was too strong, and her body was too tired. She woke up to the sound of the door opening. Yuna's eyes snapped open. Her hand went to her side, looking for a weapon she did not have. Beside her, Taiho was also awake, his body tense. Someone was standing in the doorway. A figure covered in snow, trembling so hard it could barely stand. It was small, maybe the size of a human teenager. And it was not human. The creature stepped forward into the dim light. Yuna saw scales. Blue-green scales that should have been bright but were now dull and gray. She saw large eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. She saw a face that was somewhere between a lizard and something else. Something almost human in its expressions. A Valori. A young one, from the size of it. The alien looked at them with those strange eyes. It was shaking badly. Not from fear, Yuna realized. From cold. You burn, the Valori whispered. Its voice was strange, like wind blowing through hollow bones. How do you not die? Taiho held up his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. We are warm-blooded. We make our own heat. It is our nature. The Valori stared at them. Then its legs gave out, and it collapsed on the frozen floor. Taiho rushed forward and knelt beside the alien. He pressed his fingers against its neck, feeling for a pulse. His face became very serious. She is dying, he said. Her core temperature is dropping too fast. Without heat, her organs will fail. Can we help her? Yuna asked. Taiho looked at her. There's only one way, and it goes against every first contact protocol ever written. Yuna did not hesitate. She crawled across the floor and pulled the young Valori toward her. The alien's skin was ice cold, colder than anything she had ever touched. It burned her hands like frozen metal. What are you doing? The Valori whispered weakly. Saving your life, Yuna said. She wrapped her arms around the alien and held her close, pressing her warm human body against the cold reptilian one. Now shut up and let me keep you alive. The Valori's name was Sira. She was young, maybe 15 in human years. She had been separated from her clan during a fight with a rival group. She had been wandering in the snow for hours, getting colder and colder, until she saw the glow of heat coming from the outpost. She had come here expecting to find a machine. Instead, she found monsters. Except they were not acting like monsters. Taiho found some old equipment and managed to create a simple heating pad using the battery from his suit. It would drain the battery quickly, but right now, keeping Sierra alive was more important than keeping himself warm. Through the long night, Yuna held the young Valori in her arms. She felt the alien's body slowly warming up. She felt the shaking stop. She felt Sierra's breathing become steady. When morning came, Sierra opened her eyes and looked up at Yuna's face. "My people tell stories about you," Sierra said quietly. "They say you are monsters who melt ice and burn everything you touch." Yuna smiled tiredly. "Do I seem like a monster to you?" Sierra was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "No," she said. "You seem like someone who did not want me to die." "That is exactly what I am," Yuna said. "That is all I am." Outside, the sun was rising over the frozen mountains. And somewhere in those mountains, Sierra's clan was looking for her. They would find the outpost. They would find the humans. And then things would get complicated. The second night was worse than the first. The temperature dropped even lower. The wind screamed outside the outpost walls like an angry animal. Inside, 3 unlikely companions huddled together against the cold. Sierra was still weak. Her body had warmed up during the day, but as soon as the sun disappeared, she began to cool down again. That was the problem with cold-blooded creatures, Taiho explained. They could not hold heat. Without a constant source of warmth, they would slowly freeze from the inside. "I am sorry," Sierra said. Her voice was soft and tired. "I am taking your heat. You need it more than I do." "No," Yuna said firmly. "We have plenty. Humans always have plenty." This was not exactly true. Yuna was hungry and exhausted. Her body was working hard to keep her warm, burning through energy she did not have. But she was not going to let this young alien die. Not when she could do something about it. Taiho had found some old food supplies in a storage room. They were frozen solid and 50 years old, but they were still food. He had managed to thaw some of it using heat from their bodies. The 3 of them shared a meal of old rice crackers and dried fruit that had lost all its flavor decades ago. It was the best thing Yuna had ever eaten. "Tell me about your people," Yuna said to Sierra. "What are they like?" Sierra was quiet for a moment, thinking. "We are the Valori. We have lived on cold worlds for thousands of years. We follow the heat. When a volcano becomes quiet, we move to a new one. When a hot spring dries up, we find another." "That sounds hard," Taiho said. "It is normal," Sierra replied. "We do not know any other way. But recently, things have become more difficult. The good heat sources are becoming rare. Different clans fight over them. That is why I was separated from my family. We were fighting with another clan over a volcanic vent." Yuna felt anger rise in her chest. "Your people fight over heat? While you freeze. What else can we do? Without heat, we die. Every clan wants to survive. Every clan will do what they must." The logic was simple and terrible. In a world where heat was life, heat became something worth killing for. Taiho had been quiet, thinking. Now he spoke. "What if you did not have to fight? What if there was enough heat for everyone?" Sierra looked at him with confused eyes. "That is impossible. Heat is limited. It always runs out. On this planet, maybe. But humans have technology. We can make heat. We can create it from fuel, from sunlight, from the movement of atoms. We build machines that warm entire cities. We could share this with your people." Sira stared at him for a long moment. Then she made a sound that might have been laughter or might have been crying. "You do not understand," she said. "The Valori will never accept help from humans. They are too afraid. They have been afraid for generations." "Why?" Una asked. Sira pulled back slightly, looking at both humans with her large, glowing eyes. "Because of what you are. Because of what you do without even trying." She reached out and placed her cold hand on Una's arm. Even through the fabric of the suit, Una could feel how cold Sira's skin was. "When my people first saw humans, they could not believe it," Sira continued. "A species that burns from within. A species that does not need the sun or the fire to stay alive. You walk through the cold like it does not exist. You survive where we would die in minutes. To us, you are not just strange. You are terrifying." Una looked at her own hands. Warm hands. Hands that had held Sira through the night and kept her alive. She had never thought of her body temperature as special. It was just something humans had. Something normal, but here, in this galaxy full of cold-blooded species, it made her a miracle. Or a monster, depending on who was looking. "We are not trying to be scary," Una said quietly. "I know that now," Sira replied. "But my people do not. They see only the heat. They see only the danger." The night continued. The wind continued. And the three of them continued to share warmth in the darkness. At some point, Sira fell asleep. Her head rested against Una's shoulder, her cold body pressed against Una's warm one. In sleep, she looked peaceful. She looked like any other teenager, despite the scales and the strange eyes. "She trusts us," Taiho said quietly. "Yes, that is rare. For any species to trust another so quickly." Una looked down at Sira's sleeping face. She did not have a choice. She was dying. She had a choice. She could have run away. She could have attacked us. Instead, she stayed. She let you hold her. That takes courage. Una thought about this. She thought about how scary it must be for Sira, to be surrounded by creatures that glow with impossible heat, to be held by monsters from the stories your parents told you. And yet, Sira had chosen to trust. She had chosen to believe that not all stories were true. "We have to help her get back to her people," Una said. Taiho nodded. "I know, but that will be complicated. Her clan will not be happy to see us. Then we will have to change their minds." "How?" Una did not have an answer. She only had hope. Hope that what they had done for Sira might matter. Hope that warmth could be more than just temperature. Hope that sometimes the right thing to do was also the thing that changed everything. Morning came slowly. The sun rose over the frozen mountains, painting the snow in shades of pink and gold. The wind died down. The world became quiet. Sira woke up. She looked around the outpost, then looked at the two humans who had kept her alive through the night. Something in her eyes had changed. The fear was still there, but now there was something else. Something like wonder. "Thank you," she said. "I do not know how to repay you." Una smiled. "You do not have to repay us. Where we come from, we share warmth. It is how we survive. It is how we show that we care about each other." Sira was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. "Among my people, we have a similar tradition. When someone shares a heat source with you, they become like family. It is a sacred bond." "Then I guess we are family now," Taiho said. Sira looked at him, then at Una. A small smile crossed her alien face. "Yes," she said. "I think we are." They ate the last of the old food supplies. Then they prepared to leave the outpost. Sira's clan was somewhere in the mountains. If they could find them, maybe they could talk. Maybe they could explain that not all humans were monsters. But as they stepped outside into the cold morning air, Yuna saw something that made her heart stop. Figures. Dozens of figures, standing on the hills around the outpost. Valori warriors, their scales glinting in the sunlight. They had surrounded the building during the night. They had been watching, waiting. And now they had come to take their child back. There were at least 50 of them. Yuna stood at the outpost door, her breath making small clouds in the frozen air. On every side, Valori warriors watched from the hills. Their scales were dark blue and silver, designed to absorb any heat from the weak sun. Their eyes glowed faintly, tracking the warmth of the two humans like predators watching prey. "Do not move," Sira whispered. "Do not run. If you run, they will think you are enemies." "We are not running anywhere," Taiho said calmly. "We want to talk." One of the Valori stepped forward. This one was larger than the others, older, with scars across its face and deep lines around its eyes. It walked slowly, each step careful and deliberate. When it stopped, it was only 10 meters away from the outpost door. "I am Veth," the elder said. His voice was deeper than Sira's, rougher, like stones grinding together. "I lead this clan. You have our child." "She is safe," Yuna said quickly. "She came to us. She was freezing. We helped her." Veth's glowing eyes moved from Yuna to Sira. "Child, come here." Sira hesitated. She looked at the two humans, then at her clan leader. For a moment, she seemed torn between two worlds. "They saved me," she said. "I was dying. The cold was taking me, and they gave me their heat." A murmur ran through the Valori warriors. Some of them looked at each other with confusion. Others looked angry. One or two looked curious. Veth raised a hand, and the murmuring stopped. "You are saying that these burning ones shared their fire with you? Willingly?" "Yes. Why would they do this?" Sira stepped forward, standing between the humans and her clan. "Because that is what they do. They told me that among their people, sharing warmth is how they show care, how they show love. They did not see me as an enemy. They saw me as someone who needed help." Veth was silent for a long moment. Its eyes never left the two humans. Yuna could feel those eyes measuring her, judging her, trying to understand what kind of creature she was. "Our stories say the burning ones are dangerous," Veth said finally. "Our stories say they melt ice with their touch and burn everything they see. Our stories say they are monsters." "Your stories are wrong," Yuna said. The words came out before she could stop them. Every Valori warrior tensed. Several of them raised weapons that looked like long spears made of frozen crystal, but Yuna did not back down. She stepped forward, past Sira, until she was standing in the open snow, facing Veth directly. "I am not a monster," she said. "I am just a person. I got lost. My ship crashed. I was dying, just like Sira was dying. The only difference is that my body makes its own heat and hers does not." Veth tilted its head, studying her. "You are not afraid of us." "No. Should I be? We could kill you right now. You are surrounded. You have no weapons." Yuna nodded. "Yes, you could kill me, but you would be killing someone who saved your child's life. Is that who your people are? Is that what your stories teach?" The question hung in the cold air. Veth's eyes narrowed. Taiho stepped forward to stand beside Yuna. "We did not come to your world to cause trouble. We crashed here by accident. All we want is to survive and go home. But while we are here, we can help. We can share what we have. What could you possibly share with us?" Veth asked. "You are two lost creatures in a frozen land. You have nothing. We have heat," Taiho said simply. "And we have knowledge. Humans have machines that can create warmth. Machines that never run out. Machines that could keep your people warm forever. Another murmur from the warriors. This time, it sounded different. Less angry, more interested. Veth raised a hand again. You speak of impossible things. They are not impossible. They are just different. Where we come from, no one freezes to death. No one fights over heat sources. Everyone has enough. We could teach you how to build these machines. We could share this technology with your people. Veth was quiet for a very long time. The wind blew across the frozen plain, carrying snow and ice. The sun continued its slow journey across the gray sky. Finally, the elder spoke. And what do you want in return? Yuna answered before Taiho could. Nothing. We want nothing in return. We just want to help. No one gives something for nothing. There is always a price. Yuna shook her head. Where I come from, helping people is the price. It is what makes us who we are. When we see someone suffering, we try to help. When we see someone cold, we share our warmth. That is not a trick. That is just human. Sira stepped forward again. She walked past Yuna and stood before Elder Veth. She was small compared to the clan leader, young and inexperienced. But her voice was strong. I was ready to die, Sira said. I had accepted it. The cold was taking me, and I could not stop it. Then I saw the light from this building. I thought I would find a machine. Instead, I found them. She pointed at Yuna and Taiho. They could have let me die. They did not know me. They had no reason to help. But the female held me all night. She wrapped herself around me and gave me her heat. The male worked for hours to keep me warm. They gave me what our vents give us. They gave me life. Veth looked at Sira, then at the two humans. You truly believe they mean us no harm? I believe they are not what our stories say. Our stories are old. Our stories come from fear. But I have seen the truth with my own eyes. I have felt it with my own body. These are not monsters. These are people who care about others, even strangers, even enemies. The silence stretched on. Yuna's heart was beating hard in her chest. This was the moment. Everything depended on what Veth decided next. The elder closed its eyes. When it opened them again, something had changed. I have led this clan for 40 years, Veth said. I have seen many things. I have made many hard choices. But I have never seen anything like this. Veth stepped forward until it was standing directly in front of Yuna. Up close, the Valori elder was intimidating. Tall, powerful, covered in scars from a lifetime of survival. But Yuna did not back away. You saved our child, Veth said. You asked for nothing in return. You offered to share your fire with us, even though we surrounded you with weapons. Yes, Yuna said. Why? Why would you do this? Yuna thought about the question. She thought about her mother's kitchen. She thought about the soup on cold winter nights. She thought about every time someone had helped her, every time she had helped someone else. Because that is what warmth is for, she said. It is not just for keeping ourselves alive. It is for sharing. It is for giving to others when they need it. That is what my people believe. That is what I believe. Veth stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, the elder reached out and placed a cold hand on Yuna's shoulder. Then perhaps, Veth said, our stories need to change. 3 days later, the rescue ship arrived. Yuna stood outside the outpost and watched the shuttle descend from the gray clouds. It was a beautiful sight. The ship was sleek and white, with the United Earth Fleet symbol painted on its side. Warmth and safety, coming down from the sky. But as she watched the ship land, Yuna felt something unexpected. She felt sad thought behind her. Sira and Elder Veth stood with several other members of the clan. Over the past 3 days, everything had changed. The Valori had brought food and supplies. They had shared their knowledge of the land, and the two humans had shared their knowledge in return. Taiho had drawn designs for simple heating machines. Nothing too advanced, nothing that required complicated technology. Just basic devices that could capture heat from the sun or from movement or from the bodies of the Valori themselves. The clan's engineers had studied the drawings with great interest. Yuna had done something simpler. She had talked. She had listened. She had played games with the young Valori and shared stories with the old ones. She had shown them that humans were not monsters. They were just people. Strange people who burned from within, but people all the same. Now it was time to leave. The shuttle door opened, and a woman in a captain's uniform stepped out. She looked at the group of Valori surrounding the two humans, and her hand moved toward her weapon. "Lieutenant Park," the captain said carefully. "Are you in danger?" Yuna smiled. "No, Captain. These are our friends." The words seemed to confuse everyone. The captain looked uncertain. The Valori looked at each other with strange expressions on their faces. Even Taiho raised an eyebrow, but Sira stepped forward. She walked up to Yuna and pressed her forehead against Yuna's cheek. The touch was cold and strange, but somehow it felt right. "Among my people," Sira said, "this is how we say your clan. You are family. You belong with us." Yuna reached up and touched Sira's face gently. The young alien's scales were smooth and cool beneath her fingers. "Then I guess we are family now," Yuna said. "Distance does not change that." Elder Veth stepped forward. The old Valori looked at the rescue shuttle, then at the two humans. "We have discussed your offer," Veth said. "The heating technology. The machines that make warmth from nothing. We want to learn more." "We can arrange that," Taiho said. "I will speak with my commanders. I will tell them what happened here. I will explain that the Valori are not enemies, that you are potential allies. Will they believe you?" Taiho smiled. "Probably not at first, but I can be very convincing. And I have evidence." He held up a small recording device. "I have been documenting everything. Our conversations, our cooperation, the way you helped us survive. When my commanders see this, they will understand." Veth nodded slowly. "And what do you ask in return?" "Your people must want something." Yuna answered. "Partnership, friendship, a chance to learn from each other. You have survived on cold worlds for thousands of years. You know things about ice and snow that we could never figure out on our own. And we have technology that could help you. Together, we could both be stronger." The elder considered this. Then, for the first time since Yuna had met the old Valori, Veth smiled. It was a strange expression on that reptilian face, but it was unmistakably a smile. "My people have a saying," Veth said. "Cold hearts freeze alone. Warm hearts survive together." I did not understand this saying until now. I thought it meant that we must stay close to each other, share our heat sources, work as a group. But perhaps it means something more. Veth looked at Yuna and Taiho. Perhaps it means that warmth is not just temperature. Perhaps it means kindness, compassion, the choice to help someone even when you do not have to. If that is true, then your people have the warmest hearts we have ever seen. Yuna felt tears in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. Crying in this cold would freeze her eyelashes together. "Thank you," she said. "That is the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me." The captain was still standing by the shuttle, looking confused and impatient. "Lieutenant, we really should go. The ship is waiting." "I know." Yuna turned to Sira one last time. "Will I see you again?" The young Valori nodded. "I have asked the elders to let me be part of the exchange. When your people send scientists and engineers, I want to be there. I want to help build the connection between our worlds." "You would be perfect for that job," Taiho said. You already speak our language. You understand both sides. Sira's eyes glowed with something that might have been pride. Then it is decided. I will study. I will prepare. And when the time comes, I will be ready. Yuna pulled the young alien into a hug. It was awkward because of their different shapes and sizes, but Sira hugged back. Her cold arms wrapped around Yuna's warm body, and for a moment, they were just two friends saying goodbye. Do not forget us, Sira whispered. Never, Yuna promised. She stepped back and walked toward the shuttle. Taiho followed. At the door, they both turned and looked back at the group of Valori standing in the snow. This is not the end, Taiho called out. This is the beginning. The shuttle lifted off and climbed through the gray clouds. Yuna pressed her face against the window and watched the frozen planet grow smaller below. She could still see the outpost, a tiny dark shape against the white snow. She could still see the Valori, watching the ship fly away. The captain sat down across from her. I have to admit, Lieutenant, this is not how I expected this rescue mission to go. What did you expect? I expected to find you dead, or captured, or fighting for your life. I did not expect to find you having a peaceful conversation with a species that was supposed to be hostile. Yuna smiled tiredly. They were not hostile. They were just scared. They thought we were monsters because we were different from them. Once they realized we meant no harm, everything changed. The captain nodded slowly. Your report will be interesting. The diplomats are going to have a lot of questions. I will answer all of them. But the most important thing is simple. The Valori are not our enemies. They can be our friends, our allies. And it all started because we did something basic. We shared our warmth with someone who was cold. The captain looked out the window at the planet disappearing behind them. That's simple, huh? Sometimes the most important things are simple, Yuna said. Months passed. Reports were written. Meetings were held. Diplomats argued and debated and eventually agreed on a plan. The Kilo system became a special cooperation zone. Human engineers traveled to the frozen planet and built heating stations near Valori settlements. Valori guides led human scientists to geological treasures hidden beneath the ice. Together, the two species learned from each other, worked with each other, grew alongside each other. Sira became the first official Valori ambassador to human space. She visited Earth and marveled at the green plants and blue oceans. She met Yuna's mother and tasted the soup that Yuna had dreamed about during those frozen nights. She laughed at human jokes and cried at human movies and slowly became part of a larger family than she had ever imagined. And in the diplomatic archives, historians recorded the first successful treaty between humans and the Valori. They gave it a special name, one that would be remembered for generations. They called it the Warmth Accords. Some officials thought the name was too sentimental. Some thought it was not serious enough. But Sira understood. She had been there at the beginning. She knew what it really meant. It meant that on a frozen night, on a cold and hostile world, a human woman had said the strangest thing she had ever heard. Get in my bed. You will freeze without me. And everything had changed, because that was what humans did. They burned from within. They carried fire in their hearts. And when they met someone who was cold, they did not walk away. They shared their warmth. That was what made them human. That was what made them wonderful. That was what made them exactly the kind of creature the galaxy needed. Even if it did not know it yet,